Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
They called her feral because it was easier than admitting they were afraid. Station Orcs. 9 hung in the void like a rusting crown, orbiting a star that pulsed weakly. Its light dim, erratic, as though the universe itself had grown tired of sustaining it. Inside the station, the air was thick with recycled oxygen and unspoken tension. Every corridor carried whispers. Every screen carried her image. Subject K, 27. She had been recovered from the wreckage of an unidentified vessel. If it could even be called that. No propulsion system. No recognizable architecture. Just fragments of something organic and metallic fused together, drifting at the edge of the system, like a corpse that refused to decay. And at its center, her, a girl, no older than 16 by human standards. Barefoot, unarmed, and somehow more dangerous than anything they had ever encountered. Containment report, Commander Rhea said sharply, stepping into the observation deck. Subject remains isolated. A technician replied, not looking away from the monitors. No verbal communication. No identifiable language patterns. Minimal movement. Minimal? Rhea raised an eyebrow. The technician hesitated. She doesn't move unless someone enters the room. That made Rhea pause. On the central screen, the girl sat in the corner of her containment chamber, knees drawn to her chest, long strands of pale hair partially obscuring her face. Her skin shimmered faintly under the dim lights, thin lines like liquid silver tracing beneath the surface, pulsing slowly. She looked small, harmless, until you remembered the footage. Rhea gestured. Play it again. The room dimmed as a recording filled the screen. 2 guards entered the chamber. Standard procedure, routine inspection. The girl didn't react at first. Then one of them took a step closer. What happened next lasted less than 3 seconds. A blur of motion. A scream cut short. Metal bending. Bone snapping. The second guard didn't even get his weapon fully raised before he was thrown across the room hard enough to crack the reinforced wall. The video froze. Silence filled the deck. Vitals? Rhea asked. 1 deceased. 1 in critical condition. The technician replied quietly. We've upgraded the chamber's security protocols since then. Rhea didn't respond immediately. She studied the frozen frame. The girl standing in the center of the room, her expression not angry, not even aggressive, just overwhelmed. Why hasn't she tried to escape? Rhea murmured. No one answered, because no one knew. Across the station, far from the sterile glow of command, Elias Varn was elbow deep in a maintenance panel that refused to cooperate. Come on, he muttered, tightening connection. The panel sparked. Elias jerked back with a yelp. Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what I wanted. He sighed, wiping grease from his hands onto an already stained uniform. Life on Orcs. 9 wasn't glamorous. Unless you consider crawling through ventilation shafts and fixing systems, no one else cared about glamorous. Which he didn't. He preferred things simple. Predictable. Broken wires. Faulty circuits. Problems with solutions. Not whatever was happening on the upper decks. Even down here, the rumors had spread. They found something. It killed 2 guards. It's not human. Elias tried not to think about it. He failed. Varn. He turned. 2 security officers stood at the end of the corridor. That was never a good sign. Yeah. Elias straightened slightly. If this is about the coolant leak, I can explain. Commander Rhea wants to see you. That was worse. Me? He asked, pointing to himself as if there might be another Varn hiding nearby. Yes. Now. Elias swallowed. Did I do something wrong? Neither officer answered. That told him everything he needed to know. The walk to the command level felt longer than usual. Elias's mind raced through every possible mistake he'd made in the past month. Had he missed a repair? Filed a report incorrectly? Accidentally shut down something important? By the time he reached the observation deck, his stomach was in knots. The door slid open. Commander Rhea stood waiting. She didn't waste time. Elias Varn, Maintenance Division, no disciplinary record. No immediate family. Minimal social connections. Elias blinked. That's a very thorough introduction. Rhea's gaze was steady, calculating. Do you know why you're here? No, Elias admitted, but I'm starting to feel like I should be worried. You should be. That didn't help. Rhea gestured to the central screen. Elias followed her gaze and saw her. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. The girl sat exactly as described, silent, still almost fragile. That's her? He asked quietly. Yes. Elias frowned slightly. She doesn't look dangerous. Rhea cut in. Elias hesitated. Looks can be misleading, she said. You're going to enter her containment chamber. Elias stared at her. Sorry, what? You will enter the chamber, Rhea repeated. Alone. That sounds like a terrible idea. It is, she agreed without hesitation. Elias let out a short, nervous laugh. Okay, good. So we're not doing that, right? Rhea didn't smile. We need to understand her behavior. She reacts to presence, but not consistently. We've tried armed guards, drones, remote observation. None of it has yielded useful data. And you think sending me in there will? I think, Rhea said calmly, that you are the least threatening individual on this station. Elias opened his mouth, closed it. That's not as comforting as you think it is. No weapons, no armor, no aggressive posture, Rhea continued. You will observe and report. And if she decides to, Elias made a vague gesture that he hoped conveyed violent death. Rhea met his eyes. Then we learned something. The room fell silent. Elias felt something cold settle in his chest. You picked me because I'm expendable, he said quietly. Rhea didn't deny it. That's not, one of the technicians started, but stopped under her glance. Elias let out a slow breath. Of course it was him. He looked back at the screen. At the girl. She hadn't moved. Not once. Does she understand us, he asked. We don't know. Has she said anything? No. Elias hesitated. Then, despite himself, he asked, Is she alone in there? Rhea blinked just slightly. Yes. Elias nodded. Something shifted in his expression. Not courage. Not exactly. But something quieter. Resignation, maybe. Okay, he said. The corridor outside the containment chamber was colder than the rest of the station. Or maybe it just felt that way. Elias stood before the reinforced door, his reflection staring back at him in the polished metal. You can still back out, one of the guards said, almost sympathetically. Elias shook his head. No, he said softly. I can't. The calm in his ear crackled. Remember, Rhea's voice said, do not provoke her. I wasn't planning to, Elias muttered. The door began to open. A low hiss. A thin line of darkness widening into a void. Elias took a breath and stepped inside. The word lingered in the air. Hi. It sounded absurd the moment it left Elias's mouth. Too small, too human for a room built to contain something unknown. The sound seemed to dissolve before it even reached her. But she heard it. He knew she did, because she didn't move. Not at first. Her glowing eyes stayed fixed on him, unblinking, unyielding. They weren't like human eyes. There was no softness to them, no immediate emotion he could recognize. Just depth, endless, unnerving depth. Elias forced himself to breathe. Okay, he whispered to himself. Okay, we're doing this. He didn't step closer, didn't raise his voice. Every instinct told him sudden movement would be a mistake. So he stayed where he was, near the door, hands slightly raised, not in surrender, not quite, but open enough to show he wasn't holding anything. I'm Elias, he said, a little louder this time. That's my name. No response. Of course there wasn't. He swallowed. You probably don't care about that. Or understand it. Or, yeah, okay. Silence returned. Heavy, pressing. Then she moved. It wasn't a step. It wasn't even something his eyes could fully follow. One moment she was across the room. The next, she was standing in front of him. Elias flinched hard, stumbling back a half step before catching himself. His heart slammed against his ribs so violently it hurt. Too fast. Way too fast. but she didn't attack. She just stood there, closer than anyone had ever gotten to her, and lived. Elias forced himself not to pull away again. Her head tilted slightly, as if adjusting to a new angle of observation, studying him, not like a predator, not like prey, like something else, something trying to understand. Okay, Elias breathed. You're fast. That's good to know. Very good to know. His voice shook. He hated that it did. Her gaze flickered, not away, not exactly, but deeper. Then, slowly, she lifted her hand. Elias tensed, every muscle locked. This is it, his mind whispered. This is where you die. Her fingers hovered inches from his face, long pale, faintly glowing beneath the skin. They trembled, not with aggression, with hesitation. And that confused him more than anything. Hey, he said softly, barely daring to speak. It's okay. I'm not going to. Her fingers touched his cheek. The world broke. It wasn't pain. It wasn't physical at all. It was everything. A surge of sensation flooded through him. So suddenly his knees nearly buckled. Images, no, not images, experiences, poured into his mind faster than he could process. Endless stars stretching across black oceans. Worlds he couldn't name, colors he couldn't describe, voices without sound. Loneliness, not the quiet kind. Not the kind you feel in an empty room. This was vast, ancient, a silence, so deep it felt like it had weight. Elias gasped, staggering slightly. The connection snapped. She recoiled instantly, like she'd been burned. She stumbled back, retreating several steps in a blur, before stopping near the wall. Her eyes flickered, brighter now, unstable. Elias pressed a hand to his chest, breathing hard. What was that? He whispered. She said nothing, but something in her posture had changed. Before, she had been still. Now, she looked uncertain, afraid. Elias blinked. Afraid? That wasn't, he swallowed, trying to steady his voice. You mean to hurt me, did you? No answer, but her gaze shifted, not to him, but downward, brief, almost ashamed. Something clicked. Oh! Elias murmured, slowly, carefully. He lowered himself to the floor, every movement deliberate, non-threatening. I'm okay, he said, softer now. Really, it just surprised me. She didn't move, didn't come closer, but she didn't lash out either. Elias took that as a win. He leaned back against the wall, keeping a respectful distance between them. Guess that's your way of talking, huh? He said quietly, not exactly subtle. Silence. But it felt different now. Less like a void. More like space waiting to be filled. Minutes passed. Then more. Time blurred. Elias talked. Not because he thought she understood every word, but because silence felt worse. I fix things, he said at one point, staring at the floor. Mostly broken systems. Wires. Panels. Stuff no one else wants to deal with. He glanced at her. She was watching again. Always watching. I'm not important, he added with a faint shrug. Kind of why I'm here, I guess. Her head tilted slightly. A familiar motion now. He let out a small breath. Yeah, I figured that out too. Another stretch of quiet. Then cautiously, Elias shifted his position, just enough to sit more comfortably. She mirrored him. He froze. Okay, he whispered. That's new. He adjusted again. So, did she? A strange, almost disbelieving laugh escaped him. You're copying me. Her eyes flickered. Not confusion. Recognition. Elias's chest tightened. You're learning, he said softly. The word hung between them. Learning. Something about that made her still again. Not defensive. Not aggressive. Just focused. Elias hesitated. Then, slowly, he placed his hand flat against the floor between them. Not reaching. Not forcing. Just there. An offering. She stared at it. Longer than anything else so far. Then, carefully, she moved. Not fast this time. Not sudden. Each step measured. Controlled. As if she were choosing every movement instead of reacting on instinct. When she reached the space between them, she stopped. Her hand hovered again. Elias didn't move, didn't even breathe. Then gently, she touched his hand. The connection returned. But this time, it was different, softer, quieter, not a flood, a trickle. Fragments slipped through, broken pieces of thought, emotion, memory, fear, confusion, cold, alone. Elias's throat tightened. "You don't know where you are," he murmured, the faintest flicker in her eyes. "Yes," he whispered, "I get it." Another pulse of sensation, not as sharp, not as overwhelming, just enough. Elias closed his eyes briefly, letting it pass. "You're not alone," he said. He wasn't sure if she understood the words, but something in the connection shifted. The tension eased, just a little. When he opened his eyes again, she was closer than before, still cautious, still uncertain, but no longer retreating. Hours slipped by. Neither of them noticed. At some point, exhaustion crept in, slow, inevitable. Elias's body began to give in first. His head tipped back against the wall. His eyelids grew heavy. "This is probably a bad idea," he muttered faintly. "Falling asleep in here." She watched him, unblinking, as his breathing slowed, as his body relaxed, as he let his guard down completely. For the first time since entering the chamber, Elias Varn closed his eyes and trusted something no one else on the station dared to. The girl didn't move for a long time, not until his breathing deepened, not until he was completely still. Then, slowly, she shifted closer, close enough to feel the steady rhythm of his chest, close enough to confirm something she had never known before. He wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Carefully, almost hesitantly, she curled beside him. 12 hours. That was how long Elias Varn had been inside the containment chamber. 12 hours without a scream, without a distress signal, without a body being dragged out. That alone made the room uneasy. The observation deck was louder than usual, but no one raised their voice. Every word was measured, restrained, as if speaking too loudly might somehow disturb whatever fragile balance existed beyond the reinforced glass. "That's not normal," one of the security officers muttered, arms crossed tightly. She should have reacted by now. "She did react," a technician replied. "You saw the initial movement logs. Elevated activity, rapid displacement, and then nothing," the officer snapped. "You don't go from that to nothing unless..." "Unless what?" Another voice cut in. No one answered, because no one wanted to say it out loud, unless she didn't see him as a threat. Commander Rhea stood at the center of the room, eyes fixed on the darkened screen. "Bring up the live feed," she ordered. The technician hesitated. "Commander, we've been running passive observation only. No direct visual since the initial entry." Rhea's expression hardened. "And why exactly?" "To avoid provoking her, if she detects surveillance." "She already knows we're watching," Rhea said flatly. "Or she assumes it. Either way, speculation is no longer useful. I want confirmation." A beat, then, "Yes, Commander." The screen flickered. Static, a brief distortion. Then, the chamber came into view. Elias sat on the floor, alive, very much alive. A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. "That's not possible," someone whispered. "He hasn't even activated the emergency beacon. Is he talking?" "Audio," Rhea said immediately. The technician adjusted the feed. The static softened. Then Elias's voice came through, quiet, uneven, but unmistakably calm. "So, yeah, that's pretty much it," he was saying. "Not exactly the kind of story you tell at recruitment briefings." He gave a faint, tired laugh. Across from him, she sat, mirroring him. Same posture, same stillness. Watching him, listening. Rhea stepped closer to the screen. "Enhance focus," she said. The image sharpened. The girl's head tilted slightly as Elias spoke. Subtle, almost imperceptible, but consistent. "She's tracking him," a technician murmured. "Not just visually. There's a pattern, micro adjustments in response to his voice." "She's not reacting," the security officer said. "She's engaging." The word felt strange in the room. Uncomfortable. Rhea didn't comment, but her gaze didn't waver. Inside the chamber, Elias shifted slightly, stretching his legs with a quiet groan. Okay, sitting like that for hours? Not recommended, he muttered. The girl's eyes followed the movement instantly. When he adjusted his posture, she did the same. Elias blinked. You're still doing that, he said softly. No response, but she didn't stop. He let out a slow breath, glancing toward the ceiling. They're probably watching this, he added. You know that, right? Her gaze didn't follow his. It stayed on him, focused, intent. Yeah, Elias murmured. Didn't think so. He hesitated. Then more quietly, they're scared of you. That made her pause. Not physically, but something shifted. A faint flicker beneath the surface, visible only because Elias had learned to look for it. They don't understand you, he continued. Honestly, neither do I. A small, almost self-conscious smile touched his face. But I don't think you're trying to hurt anyone. Silence. Then, slowly, she moved. Closer. Not in a blur this time. Not sudden. Measured. Each step deliberate. Elias didn't pull back. Didn't tense. He just watched her approach. That's new, he whispered. She stopped just within reach. Her hand lifted again. That same hesitation. That same uncertainty. Elias exhaled softly. It's okay, he said. I remember this part. He turned his hand slightly, palm up this time. An invitation. Her gaze dropped to it, studying, comparing. Then, carefully, she placed her hand in his. On the observation deck, the room went silent. No one spoke. No one moved. She's initiating contact. A technician whispered, barely audible. No signs of aggression. No kinetic spike. No. Record everything, Rhea said. Her voice was steady, but her grip on the console tightened almost imperceptibly. Inside the chamber, the connection formed. Elias inhaled sharply, but didn't pull away. This time he was ready, or at least less unprepared. The flood didn't come, not like before. Instead, fragments, slower, controlled. He felt it as much as saw it. A cold emptiness. Not hostile, not violent, just vast. A place with no edges, no boundaries, no others. Alone, the sensation pressed against his mind, quieter than before, but heavier in its own way. Elias swallowed. You've always been alone, he murmured. The faintest tightening of her fingers. Not painful, just present. Yes, he said softly. I felt that. More fragments followed. Broken impressions. Movement through darkness. Brief flashes of something else. Shapes, maybe others like her, but distant. Fading. Gone. Lost. Elias's chest tightened. You don't know where they went, he said. A pause. Then, something new. A flicker of him. Not his thoughts. Not his memories. Just his presence. Reflected back. Confusion. Curiosity. Elias let out a quiet breath. Yeah, he said. I'm new. The connection wavered slightly. Not breaking. Adjusting. Learning. You're trying to understand me, he added. A faint shift. Agreement. The realization hit him slowly. Not like a revelation. More like something settling into place. She's not just reacting, Elias whispered. She's building something. On the observation deck, Rhea's eyes narrowed. Repeat that last segment, she said. The technician rewound the audio slightly. She's building something. Rhea exhaled slowly. A bridge, she murmured. The word lingered. Unsettling, promising, dangerous. Inside the chamber, the connection eased. Not severed, just softened. Their hands remained together. Neither pulled away. Elias shifted slightly, adjusting his position. She mirrored him again. This time he smiled. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a thing now, he said. No response, but her gaze held steady. Closer than before, warmer, not in temperature, in presence. Elias hesitated. Then gently, You're not alone anymore, he said. The words were quiet, simple, but something in the space between them changed. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just enough. The girl's grip tightened, just slightly. Not fear, not restraint. Connection. Time passed. Neither of them noticed how much. At some point, Elias leaned back against the wall again, his body heavier now. Fatigue, catching up. "You're a lot quieter than anyone I've ever talked to," he murmured. A faint pause. Then, unexpectedly, she shifted closer. Not mirroring, not observing, choosing. Elias blinked, too tired to react quickly. "Okay," he whispered. "That's new too." She stopped beside him. Close, closer than before. Not touching, but within reach. Elias let his head rest back, eyes half-lidded. No one wanted to be the first to say it, but they were all thinking it. This shouldn't be happening. "Vitals." "Stable," the technician replied, voice low. Both of them. Define stable. No signs of distress. No aggressive movement. No abnormal spikes in the subject's bio-readings. The security officer frowned. "You're telling me the most dangerous entity we've ever brought aboard is just sitting in there?" "Not just sitting," another technician murmured. "She's maintaining proximity." Commander Rhea didn't look away from the screen. "How long since last significant movement?" 2 hours. 2 hours, the officer repeated. "So, what, she's just waiting?" Rhea's voice was quieter than before. "No," she said. "She's staying." That word shifted something in the room. The feed showed the same image it had for what felt like forever. Elias, slumped slightly against the wall. The girl, curled beside him, not touching at first. Then, slowly, over time, closer, until the distance between them disappeared entirely. At some point no one could pinpoint, her head had come to rest against his chest. And Elias, whether conscious or not, had allowed it, hadn't pulled away, hadn't resisted. Now his arm rested loosely around her shoulders. Not tight, not possessive, just there, as if it belonged. "Commander," the security officer said carefully, "we should extract him." Rhea didn't respond immediately. "He's still alive," the officer continued. "That's more than we expected. We don't need to push this further and risk undoing whatever this is." Rhea asked. The officer hesitated. "We don't even know what this is." Rhea finally turned her head slightly. "Exactly." Silence followed, because no one had an answer. Inside the chamber, Elias stirred, not fully awake, not fully aware, just enough to feel something warm against him, something steady. His breathing shifted slightly. The girl reacted instantly. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly in the dim light. Not alarmed, not aggressive. Alert, watching, waiting. Elias exhaled softly, his hand twitching slightly where it rested against her shoulder. For a brief moment, his fingers tightened. Reflex, instinct, holding. The girl stilled, not pulling away, not reacting with force. Just still, processing. Then, slowly, her posture softened again. Her head settled more comfortably against him, listening to the rhythm beneath his ribs. A sound she had come to recognize. A pattern, consistent, safe, on the observation deck. "She's responding to micro-movements," the technician whispered. "No defensive reaction, no escalation." "She's adapting," another said. "No," Rhea corrected quietly. "She's accepting." The distinction mattered, even if no one fully understood why. Minutes passed, then more. Finally, Elias's eyes opened, slowly, disoriented. He blinked once, twice, then froze. "Okay," he whispered hoarsely. "Either I'm dead or this is new." The girl didn't move immediately, but her eyes lifted to meet his. Awake, present, close, very close. Elias swallowed carefully, afraid that even the smallest movement might break something fragile. "Hey," he murmured. The word was softer this time, not forced, not nervous, familiar. Her gaze held his, steady, then a subtle shift, recognition, not of the word, of him. Elias let out a slow breath. "You stayed," he said. It wasn't a question. The girl's hand moved slightly against his chest, not pressing, not grabbing, just there, feeling, confirming. He hesitated. Then, cautiously, "You didn't have to," he added. No response. But something in her expression, something faint, something barely there, changed. Not confusion, not fear, something closer to intent. The chamber doors unlocked with sharp mechanical click. Both of them reacted. Elias looked up. The girl turned her head instantly toward the sound, eyes sharpening, body tensing just slightly. Not aggressive. Ready. The door slid open. Guards entered first. Weapons raised. Cautious. Measured. They stopped dead, because the scene in front of them didn't match anything they had prepared for. No attack. No violence. No chaos. Just stillness. Connection. "What?" one of them whispered. Elias shifted slightly, careful not to startle the girl. "It's okay," he said quietly. "Don't rush in." The guards exchanged uncertain glances. Commander Rhea stepped in behind them. Her gaze took in everything at once. Elias, alive. The girl, unrestrained, curled against him. Asleep or close to it. "This is unexpected," she said. Elias let out a dry breath. That's one way to put it. Rhea stepped closer, but not too close. Not yet. "What happened?" she asked. Elias shook his head slightly. "Nothing," he said. "That's not an answer. It kind of is." Rhea studied him. Then the girl. Then the space between them. "Explain," she said. Elias hesitated. He glanced down. The girl's hand still rested lightly against him. Grounded. Present. He chose his words carefully. "She's not what you think she is," he said. Rhea's eyes narrowed. "And what do we think she is?" "Dangerous. Unstable. Violent. A beat. Feral," he added. No one in the room spoke. Elias looked back up. "She's not," he said quietly. Rhea crossed her arms. "Two of my crew would disagree." Elias didn't flinch. "I know," he said. "And I'm not saying she can't hurt people. She can." His voice softened. "But that's not what she wants." Rhea held his gaze. "Then what does she want?" Elias exhaled slowly. He looked down again, at the girl resting against him, at the steady rise and fall of her breathing. "At first," he said, "I think she just wanted everything to stop." A faint shift in the room. Something uneasy. "And now?" Rhea asked. Elias was quiet for a moment. Then, "I think she wants to understand." Rhea didn't respond immediately. "And you?" she asked finally. Elias gave a small, tired smile. "I think I was just the first thing she didn't have to be afraid of." The words settled into the silence. Heavy, unavoidable. The girl stirred slightly at the sound of his voice. Her grip tightened just a fraction. The guard shifted instinctively. Weapons rising a fraction higher. "Easy," Elias said softly. "She's not." The girl's eyes opened. Every weapon locked onto her instantly. A breathless second passed. Then she didn't move, didn't strike, didn't react to the threat. Her gaze flicked from the guards to Elias and stayed there, focused, grounded, present. Rhea watched carefully, analyzing, calculating, reevaluating everything she thought she knew. "Lower your weapons," she said at last. The guards hesitated. "Commander," "That's an order." Reluctantly, slowly, the weapons lowered. The tension in the room shifted. Not gone, but different. The girl's posture eased. Barely, but enough. Rhea stepped forward one final pace. Close enough to see clearly. Not close enough to threaten. "We misjudged you," she said quietly. It wasn't clear who she meant. The girl, or Elias. Maybe both. The girl didn't respond. But she didn't look away either. Her attention remained where it had settled, on the one person in the room who had stayed.